The night the sky cried, an unexpected embrace. Don't forget to like this story, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. I've always been drawn to the tempestuous beauty of storms, the dramatic clash of thunder, the electrifying dance of lightning, the way they seem to cleanse the world and offer a fresh start. But the storm that swept through our quiet town of Havenwood that late autumn night wasn't just about meteorological theatrics. It was about something far more profound, something intimately human that shook the very foundations of my solitary existence. My name is Eleanor Vance, and at 52, I had carved a comfortable, if somewhat predictable, life for myself in the charmingly sleepy town of Havenwood for the past 15 years. Life ambled along at a gentle pace, a rhythm I usually found soothing. Yet, a subtle unease had begun to simmer beneath the surface lately, a feeling of incompleteness I couldn't quite articulate. That Friday, the wind howled like a banshee even before the first drop of rain fell. I was curled up in my armchair, a well-worn copy of a Victorian novel my only companion, when the lights flickered with a hesitant dance and then plunged me into darkness. "Just perfect," I muttered, fumbling for the emergency lantern in the hall closet. Peeking through the window, I watched the ancient oak in my front yard sway with alarming ferocity against the bruised twilight sky. Lantern lit, casting dancing shadows on the walls, I wrapped myself in the thick, hand-knitted shawl my grandmother had made and retreated to the living room. The rain began its relentless assault on the roof, each drop a frantic drumbeat against the silence. Suddenly, above the escalating symphony of the storm, a series of urgent bangs echoed from my front door. My heart leapt into my throat. Who would brave such a deluge? Clutching the lantern, I moved cautiously to the door and peered through the peephole. Standing on my porch, drenched to the bone and looking utterly distraught, was Julian Thorne, my neighbor from 3 houses down. Julian had moved in about 6 months prior, a reserved but courteous man in his late 40s who mostly kept to himself. Our interactions had been limited to polite nods and brief exchanges about the weather. I quickly unlatched the door, surprised by his disheveled state. His dark hair was plastered to his forehead, and his thin sweater clung to him like a second skin. He looked utterly mortified, his face flushed even in the dim glow of the lantern. "Eleanor, I am so incredibly sorry to bother you," he stammered, his voice barely audible above the wind's roar. But a massive branch just snapped off my old maple and it's completely blocked my driveway. My power is out, and my phone is dead. I honestly didn't know where else to turn. Without a moment's hesitation, I pulled the door open wider. "Julian, please, come in. You'll catch your death out here." He stepped inside, and I immediately pressed a thick towel into his hands. He dried his face and hair with awkward movements, apologizing profusely. "Nonsense," I reassured him warmly. "We're neighbors. What's the point of that if we can't offer each other shelter during a storm?" A visible tension eased from Julian's shoulders. I led him into the living room, the lantern light softening the sharp angles of his face. I noticed for the first time the deep, thoughtful lines etched around his hazel eyes, eyes that seemed to hold a quiet sadness. He sank onto the edge of the sofa, still shivering slightly. "You'd think at my age, I'd be better prepared," he said with a wry smile, rubbing his hands together. I offered a gentle smile in return. "Storms have a way of catching us off guard," I replied, my thoughts drifting not only to the turbulent weather outside but also to the quiet storm brewing within my own restless heart. I poured him a mug of the herbal tea I had brewed just before the power failed. He accepted it gratefully, the warmth seeming to seep back into his chilled hands. As the wind howled its mournful song outside, we began to talk. First about the storm, the ferocity of the wind, the ominous cracks of thunder that punctuated the night. Then, hesitantly at first, we began to share fragments of our lives. Julian had relocated to Havenwood seeking a fresh start after the unexpected passing of his younger sister a year prior. He spoke of her with a quiet tenderness, his grief still palpable, yet there was a stoic resilience in his voice that resonated with me. In turn, I confessed that I had been widowed nearly 10 years ago, my once vibrant marriage slowly succumbing to the quiet erosion of time and unspoken differences. "It's funny how silence can become so deafening, isn't it?" I murmured, staring into the flickering lamplight. Julian nodded slowly, his gaze understanding. "Especially on nights like this," he agreed, a comfortable quiet settling between us, punctuated only by the rhythmic drumming of the rain and the gentle crackle of the lantern. I felt an unfamiliar stirring within me, a warmth that had been dormant for years. Yet, a cautious reserve held me back, a fear of misinterpreting this unexpected intimacy that had blossomed so quickly in the heart of the storm. Finally, Julian broke the silence, his voice a low murmur. "Eleanor, thank you for taking me in tonight. You really didn't have to." I reached out impulsively, placing my hand gently on his arm. "I'm glad you knocked, Julian," I admitted honestly. Truth be told, storms like these often amplify the quietness of my own home. It's nice not to be entirely alone with it. Julian turned his hand over, his fingers closing gently around mine. The warmth of his touch sent a surprising tremor through me. "Me too," he whispered, meeting my gaze, sincerity shining in his hazel eyes. "I've had a lot of long, silent nights lately. And this, talking with you like this, it feels surprisingly right." My heart gave a little flutter, caught off guard by the unexpected depth of our connection. Outside, a particularly loud clap of thunder echoed, underscoring the intimacy of the moment. I felt a pull towards Julian, a nascent connection I hadn't experienced in years. Yet, as the wind shrieked and a flash of lightning illuminated the shadows in the room, we both seemed acutely aware of the fragile, unexpected nature of this encounter. A blush warmed my cheeks, a sudden shyness washing over me. Julian cleared his throat softly, sensing my hesitation. "Eleanor," he said gently, breaking our shared silence, "I don't want to impose or complicate things. But I would genuinely like to get to know you better. Perhaps after the storm passes, we could have dinner? If that's something you might be open to." His honest vulnerability touched me deeply, bringing an unexpected lump to my throat. I blinked back the sudden moisture in my eyes. "I would like that very much, Julian," I whispered earnestly. Let's see where things lead when the sun comes out." A warm smile spread across his face, understanding and a hint of relief in his eyes. "No pressure, no expectations," he agreed softly. We spent the remainder of that stormy night huddled in the warm glow of the lantern, sharing stories, laughter, and the quiet comfort of unexpected companionship. A flicker of hope ignited within me, a feeling I had almost forgotten existed. By the time dawn began to paint the eastern sky in soft hues of gray and rose, the storm had begun to subside, its fury spent. Yet, the true revelation of the night, the one that resonated most profoundly within me, wasn't the raging tempest or the downed branches in my yard, but the unexpected warmth I had discovered in the company of Julian Thorne. I couldn't yet foresee the intricate ways our lives were about to intertwine, but I knew with a certainty that resonated deep within my soul that the storm had ushered something extraordinary into my life, and there was no turning back. Morning arrived with a gentle sigh, pale sunlight filtering through the rain-streaked windows, casting shimmering patterns on the worn wooden floor. Outside, the aftermath of the storm was evident, fallen branches strewn across lawns, leaves clinging to damp pavement like forgotten memories. But inside my home, the lingering atmosphere spoke a different story, a tale of shared vulnerability, unexpected warmth, and the quiet dawn of companionship. Julian had left shortly after sunrise, eager to assess the damage to his own property. Yet, his presence lingered in my thoughts, a gentle echo in the quiet of my house. The way his eyes had met mine, the sincere timbre of his voice, the unexpected comfort of his hand in mine, these small, precious details replayed in my mind, bringing a soft smile to my lips as I sipped my morning coffee. Later that afternoon, as I began the task of clearing the smaller branches from my flower beds, I saw Julian returning, walking slowly down the street. He paused briefly at the edge of my property, a hesitant smile playing on his lips, before continuing towards me with a newfound confidence in his stride. "Hello again," he called out, his smile widening. "Looks like you've got quite the cleanup operation underway." I laughed softly, brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. "It's not so bad. How did your place fare?" "Not brilliantly, to be honest," he sighed, rubbing the back of his neck with a rueful grin. "That old maple really did a number on things. Took down a section of my fence and looks like there's some roof damage. I'll be busy for a while." "Well," I responded without hesitation, surprising even myself, "let me help you. 2 sets of hands are always better than one." A look of genuine surprise flickered across Julian's face, followed by a gentle warmth. "Are you sure, Eleanor? You've got plenty of your own mess to deal with." I placed my hands on my hips, a playful challenge in my eyes. "Absolutely sure. Besides," I added with a wink, "I owe you for keeping me company during the tempest." His face broke into a genuine grin, the lines around his hazel eyes crinkling charmingly. "In that case," he said, his voice lighter, "I gratefully accept." As we walked side by side towards Julian's house, I found myself reflecting on how natural it felt to be in his company, despite our brief acquaintance. In his presence, a sense of ease settled over me, a feeling of being seen and understood that I hadn't experienced in a long time, one that made the daunting task ahead seem less overwhelming. Julian's yard was indeed a scene of minor devastation. The massive branch lay across his driveway like a fallen giant, splintered wood and tangled leaves scattered everywhere. He surveyed the scene with a slight shake of his head, yet his inherent optimism shone through. "Well," he chuckled softly, "guess Mother Nature had other plans for my weekend." We both laughed, sharing a moment of unexpected camaraderie. Soon enough, we were hard at work, sawing and dragging branches, clearing debris, and creating neat piles by the curb. Hours passed swiftly, our conversation flowing easily between us, as if we had known each other for years. During our breaks, Julian shared more stories from his past, anecdotes about his sister, his travels, his quiet passions. I, in turn, found myself opening up about my own life, my dreams, my quiet disappointments, things I hadn't spoken aloud to anyone in years. The fragile emotional bond that had begun in the lantern-lit intimacy of the storm deepened steadily beneath the open sky, strengthened by mutual understanding and a growing sense of quiet trust. As we paused late in the afternoon, leaning against his porch railing and sipping cold lemonade, Julian's gaze grew thoughtful, turning towards the clear, post-storm sky. "It's funny, isn't it?" he mused quietly. "Sometimes the worst storms bring the greatest clarity." I followed his gaze upward, noting the brilliant blue where only hours ago dark clouds had raged. "I was just thinking something similar," I admitted softly, turning to face him. "Perhaps sometimes we need a little chaos to remind us how much we crave connection." Julian turned towards me, his eyes searching my face gently, perhaps seeing the unspoken vulnerability I had kept hidden for so long. "Eleanor," he began, his voice softer now, "I've spent a long time convincing myself I didn't need anyone else, that solitude was a form of strength." He paused, his voice catching slightly. "But being around you, it makes me realize I've been fooling myself." My breath caught in my throat, moved by the quiet sincerity in his words. Slowly, I reached out, placing my hand gently on top of his. His fingers tightened softly around mine, a silent warmth radiating from that simple gesture. "Maybe we both needed that storm more than we realized," I murmured quietly, looking down at our joined hands. His voice was gentle, thoughtful. "Maybe it was fate, Eleanor. Life shaking us awake, reminding us what we've been missing." We stood quietly for a moment, absorbing the weight of the unspoken emotions that hung in the air, a delicate anticipation that spoke volumes. Eventually, Julian broke the silence, his voice low and intimate. "Would it be all right if I took you out for dinner sometime, Eleanor? I'd really like to see you again, in a more intentional setting." My heart warmed instantly, a genuine smile spreading across my face. "I would love that, Julian." His expression brightened visibly, relief mingling with a newfound excitement. "Good," he said softly, a gentle chuckle escaping his lips. "Honestly, I was a little nervous you'd say no." I squeezed his hand reassuringly. "No chance. Not after everything we've shared." The sun began its descent towards the horizon, casting a soft golden glow over Julian's yard, reflecting gently in his eyes. There was a newfound tenderness between us, a fragile yet vibrant connection neither of us had anticipated, yet it felt undeniably honest, unmistakably authentic. Walking back home later that evening, I felt lighter, a sense of hopeful anticipation bubbling within me. Life had surprised me in the most unexpected way, reminding me of the profound power of kindness, openness, and the unexpected beauty of human connection, even at a time when I least expected it. As I prepared for bed that night, my thoughts lingered on Julian, his quiet strength, his unexpected vulnerability, the gentle kindness that radiated from him. It had been a very long time since I had felt this hopeful about someone. Could this storm, in its chaotic fury, have truly rearranged the landscape of my life? I didn't have all the answers, but for the first time in years, I found myself eager to discover them. In the quiet darkness of my bedroom, with the soft chirping of crickets drifting through the open window, I whispered a silent thank you to the storm, to fate, and especially to Julian. Little did I know, the emotional depths of this journey had only just begun, and what lay ahead would change us both in ways we couldn't yet imagine. The following weeks drifted by in a gentle, dreamlike sequence, each day infused with a newfound vibrancy. Thoughts of Julian wove their way through my every moment. I found myself smiling spontaneously, my mind often replaying snippets of our conversations, the comforting warmth of his presence a constant undercurrent to my days. I hadn't anticipated feeling this way at my age, a giddy anticipation akin to a schoolgirl waiting for a phone call, but there I was, my heart doing a little flutter every time I glanced towards his house. Finally, the day of our dinner arrived. Julian had suggested a charming little bistro nestled in the heart of Havenwood, a cozy establishment known for its soft lighting and intimate ambience. I hadn't felt this nervous, or this excited, in what felt like an eternity. That evening, I dressed with care, choosing a simple yet elegant emerald dress that brought out the subtle green flecks in my eyes. I smiled at my reflection in the mirror, noticing how the anticipation had softened my features, lending me a youthful glow I had almost forgotten. When Julian arrived to pick me up, standing on my doorstep with a gentle smile that reached his eyes, my breath caught. He wore a crisp, charcoal gray shirt, the sleeves casually rolled up, paired with dark trousers that accentuated his lean frame. He held a single ivory rose, its petals unfurling with delicate grace. "You look beautiful, Eleanor," he said quietly, sincerity evident in his warm gaze. I blushed softly, accepting the rose and inhaling its delicate fragrance. "Thank you, Julian. You're looking quite handsome yourself." At the bistro, we were seated at a secluded corner table bathed in soft golden light. Gentle jazz music played in the background, creating an atmosphere that fostered openness and intimacy. Conversation flowed effortlessly, punctuated by shared laughter and moments of quiet understanding. Julian's eyes sparkled with gentle humor as he recounted anecdotes from his younger years, and I found myself sharing stories from my own past, surprised at how naturally vulnerability came when speaking with him. Midway through our meal, Julian's expression turned contemplative, a slight hesitation crossing his features. He placed his fork down gently, meeting my eyes with a thoughtful seriousness. "Eleanor," he began carefully, "there's something I feel I need to share with you. Something that's been on my mind ever since the storm." I paused, my heart suddenly beating a little faster. "Go on, Julian," I urged softly, trying to mask the slight anxiety that had begun to prickle at the edges of my excitement. He took a slow, deep breath, as if gathering his thoughts. "It's been a long time since I've allowed myself to feel this way about someone. Ever since I lost Clara." He trailed off for a moment, the unspoken grief still lingering in the air. "My sister. Ever since Clara passed, I've held myself back emotionally. I thought shutting out vulnerability meant protecting myself from further pain. But after meeting you, Eleanor, I've realized I've been denying myself something essential." His honesty touched me deeply, and I instinctively reached across the table, gently placing my hand over his. "Julian, thank you for telling me this. You have every right to be cautious, to protect your heart after losing someone you loved so dearly. But vulnerability, allowing ourselves to feel deeply, that's what makes life truly meaningful, isn't it?" His gaze softened with gratitude, a wave of relief washing across his features. "You're right, Eleanor. And that's exactly why this evening is so important to me. I'm choosing to open myself up again, to risk feeling something meaningful again. With you." My heart swelled at his words, a warmth spreading through my chest that had nothing to do with the cozy atmosphere of the bistro. "I feel exactly the same way, Julian," I whispered, feeling a sense of vulnerability intertwined with an unexpected feeling of safety in his presence. I've spent so long pretending I was perfectly content on my own, but deep down, I've been yearning for a real connection. And when you showed up on my doorstep during that storm, it was like a light flickered back on. We shared a quiet moment of profound understanding, our fingers lightly intertwined on the tablecloth, savoring the delicate bloom of this newfound closeness. After a lingering dinner filled with heartfelt conversation and shared laughter, we strolled slowly through the charming streets of Havenwood, the soft glow of the street lamps casting long shadows behind us. The night air was crisp and cool, a gentle breeze rustling the leaves in the ancient trees that lined the sidewalks. Without conscious thought, my hand found Julian's, our fingers lacing together naturally. It felt right, a simple gesture that held a depth of meaning I hadn't anticipated. As we passed a small park bathed in the ethereal glow of the moon, Julian paused, turning gently to face me. In the quiet stillness of the night, he reached up, his hand cupping my cheek with a tenderness that stole my breath. "Eleanor," he whispered, his voice husky with emotion, his gaze locking with mine, "meeting you has reminded me what it feels like to truly live again. I didn't expect this. I honestly didn't think it was even possible. But now that you're here." He paused, his thumb gently stroking my cheekbone. "I don't want to let this feeling go." My breath hitched in my throat, my heart pounding against my ribs. The sincerity radiating from his eyes was a potent force, melting away the years of guarded reserve I had built around my heart. "Neither do I, Julian," I confessed, my voice barely a whisper. You've opened my heart in ways I thought were lost forever." Slowly, he leaned in closer, his gaze dropping to my lips, a silent question in his eyes. Without hesitation, I tilted my face upward, meeting his lips in a kiss that was tender, respectful, yet filled with a deep, quiet passion that spoke volumes about the connection we had forged in the heart of the storm. In that single, perfect moment beneath the watchful gaze of the moon, the loneliness that had shadowed our recent years seemed to dissolve completely. When we finally drew apart, Julian pressed his forehead gently against mine, his eyes closed as if savoring the profound intimacy of the moment. "I didn't think I'd ever feel this again," he confessed quietly, his breath warm against my skin. "Me neither," I whispered back, my fingers tracing the strong line of his jaw. "Thank you. Thank you for taking a chance." As we walked the remaining few steps to my doorstep, hand in hand beneath the star-dusted sky, I felt utterly transformed. Lighter, filled with a hopeful anticipation that had been absent for far too long, emotionally awakened in a way that made my heart sing. Our unexpected evening had gently unlocked doors within us both, allowing a flood of warmth and closeness into places we had kept carefully guarded for so long. At my door, Julian paused, turning to face me with a tender expression that made my heart flutter. "Thank you, Eleanor," he said, his voice soft with genuine emotion. "For tonight. For everything." I smiled warmly, squeezing his hand affectionately. "Tonight is just the beginning, Julian. I truly believe that." As he walked back towards his own home, his silhouette receding into the night, my heart was overflowing with a profound sense of gratitude. Life had surprised me, had surprised us, in a way neither of us could have ever imagined. I felt renewed, emotionally vibrant, and deeply connected in a way that sent a thrill of excitement through me for the future. Little did I know then, as I drifted off to sleep with the scent of the ivory rose filling my room, that our journey was only just beginning, and the most profound, life-altering discoveries lay just ahead, waiting to unfold like the petals of a flower kissed by the morning dew. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of shared moments, each one etching Julian deeper into the fabric of my life. We spent hours exploring hidden trails in the nearby woods, our laughter echoing through the trees. We shared quiet evenings on my porch, watching the fireflies dance in the twilight, our conversations delving into the deepest corners of our hearts. My once solitary world had blossomed into a vibrant tapestry woven with his warmth, his kindness, and the easy comfort of his presence. One sun-drenched afternoon, as we sat side by side on my porch swing, sipping iced tea, Julian turned to me, his gaze both gentle and intensely serious. "You know, Eleanor," he began, his voice thoughtful, "I've been thinking about how truly extraordinary it is that our paths crossed that night. It really does feel like fate intervened, don't you think?" I smiled, leaning my head comfortably on his shoulder. "I've thought the very same thing, Julian. I never imagined a storm could bring something so beautiful, so life-affirming, into my life." He squeezed my hand, his touch sending a familiar warmth through me. "Neither did I after Clara. I felt so disconnected, so adrift. And now I can't imagine my days without you in them." Our quiet reflection was interrupted by a distant rumble of thunder, a gentle reminder of the night our lives had intertwined. Dark clouds began to gather on the horizon, their slow, majestic movement a poignant echo of the transformative power that had entered our lives during the last tempest. Later that evening, as the rain began to fall in a soft, rhythmic patter against the window panes, Julian surprised me. He reached into his wallet and carefully pulled out a worn photograph. His expression softened with a bittersweet nostalgia as he handed it to me. "This was Clara," he said quietly, a deep reverence in his voice. "I've carried this with me every day since she passed. But tonight feels like the right time to finally let go." I carefully took the photograph. Clara was a young woman with a radiant smile, her eyes sparkling with a joyful spirit. It was clear she was deeply loved. A wave of empathy and a profound sense of gratitude for Julian's vulnerability washed over me. "She was beautiful, Julian," I whispered sincerely, handing the photo back to him. "She must have been very special." He nodded slowly, his eyes reflecting a gentle sadness. "She was. She taught me the importance of living fully, of loving without reservation. For a long time, I thought that kind of love was lost to me forever. But then you came into my life, Eleanor. And with you, I found something incredible. You've brought me back to life." Tears welled in my eyes, blurring my vision. "Oh, Julian," I choked out, reaching for his hand. "Hearing you say that, it means the world to me. I want to honor Clara's memory, to cherish the love you shared, and to build something equally beautiful with you." He looked at me, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "That's exactly how I feel, Eleanor. Meeting you has taught me that love isn't finite. Our hearts expand, they don't replace. I never imagined I could feel this deeply again. But here we are. And it feels so profoundly right." We embraced then, holding each other tightly as the rain whispered against the windows, a silent witness to our shared vulnerability, our mutual healing, and the unexpected miracle of finding love again amidst the wreckage of the past. Several weeks later, Julian invited me on a weekend getaway to a secluded cabin nestled high in the misty mountains. It was the perfect escape, quiet, peaceful, and breathtakingly romantic. We spent our days hiking along scenic trails, our laughter echoing through the crisp mountain air. We shared stories and dreams late into the night, huddled by the crackling fireplace, the vast expanse of the star-studded sky our silent companion. On our last evening, as we sat wrapped in a soft quilt, the warmth of the fire casting dancing shadows on the cabin walls, Julian turned to me, his eyes filled with a love and vulnerability that made my heart ache with happiness. "Eleanor," he began, his voice soft yet resolute, "these past few months, they've transformed me in ways I never thought possible. I never believed I could find someone who understands me the way you do. You've opened my heart again, filled my life with a joy I thought was lost forever." Emotion welled within me, tears of pure happiness shimmering in my eyes. "Oh, Julian," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. "I feel exactly the same. You've brought me back to myself. I can't imagine my life without you in it now." He reached into the pocket of his jacket, his hand trembling slightly as he pulled out a small velvet box. My breath caught in my throat, a wave of anticipation washing over me. My heart began to pound a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Julian's voice was barely a whisper, filled with a sincerity that resonated deep within my soul. "Eleanor Vance," he said, his gaze unwavering, "life brought us together in the most unexpected way, through a storm, a fallen tree, and a gentle knock on your door. I believe with all my heart that we were meant to find each other. So tonight, I want to ask you, will you marry me?" Tears streamed freely down my cheeks as I nodded vigorously, a joyful sob escaping my lips. "Yes, Julian. Yes, of course, I'll marry you." With a trembling hand, he opened the velvet box, revealing a delicate silver ring with a sparkling sapphire at its center, the blue stone mirroring the color of his eyes. He slipped it onto my finger, and then gathered me into his arms, holding me close as we kissed deeply, joyfully, beneath the warm glow of the fire, sealing our commitment to embrace the unexpected, beautiful journey life had gifted us. Returning home, we shared our joyous news with our friends and neighbors. The warmth of their congratulations echoed the profound happiness that filled our hearts. But privately, we knew that our truest celebration was far quieter, far deeper, a shared understanding of a love born from vulnerability, openness, and the courageous leap of faith we had both taken. Several months later, on a beautiful autumn afternoon, we were married in a small, intimate ceremony in my backyard. Surrounded by a few dear friends, our kind neighbors, and my closest family, we exchanged vows that were honest, heartfelt, and deeply emotional, reflecting the unique path that had led us to this moment. As I stood before Julian, looking into his loving eyes, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this storm, both literal and metaphorical, had brought us exactly where we were meant to be. Later that evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of soft lavender and rose, Julian took my hand, a gentle smile gracing his lips. "Ready for whatever comes next, Mrs. Thorne?" I squeezed his hand lovingly, a profound sense of gratitude and hopeful anticipation filling my heart. "As long as we face it together, Mr. Thorne," I replied, my voice filled with emotion, "I'm ready for everything." We stood together beneath the sky gradually filling with the first stars of the night, our hearts united by the shared vulnerability that had blossomed into an unbreakable bond of love and respect. Our journey had been unexpected, deeply emotional, and life-changing in ways we could have never imagined. And as we looked towards our future, one thing was certain: together, we had discovered something truly remarkable, the courage to love deeply, openly, and without regret. And that, we both knew, was worth every storm we had ever faced. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and share this story if it touched your heart. Subscribe for more uplifting tales of unexpected love and second chances.